this is somewhat of a request, of two requests, as people have been begging me for a while now to actually do like a preview of the pay-per-views. Well, this isn't so much going to be a preview of No Way Out as much as how I would book No Way Out, since I don't think the WWE even knows exactly how they're going to book it as of yet. Maybe they do. And also how, leading into that, what I would do with WrestleMania, as that is another request I have gotten, is, you know, how would I book WrestleMania? What would I do differently? What would my WrestleMania look like? So that is what we're going to do here. So you're going to get that. You're not going to get a real preview. So this isn't who I think will win or what I think will happen, but how I would do it, as this is the type of previews that I like, not so much of, you know, who's going to win, who's not going to win, where's it going to go from there, because to me that's a little unless you're dealing with, you know, stuff that's not staged, you know, outcomes. So we'll just go down the list here of stuff with No Way Out. I'm sure they're going to add probably another match. I wouldn't be shocked if they did add yet another match, because there's not a lot of matches on No Way Out yet, and people forget that last year, while there weren't a lot of matches, you also had the Big Show, Floyd Mayweather segment, which took up, you know, probably 15 minutes of the pay-per-view, so there is that too. So just keep all of that in mind. So let's get started, shall we? Probably, I would imagine the opening match will be Finlay versus Jack Swagger for the ECW title. I imagine this match will be probably pretty good, and I just basically would have Jack Swagger go over, just for various reasons. I guess you could have Finlay go over, but I don't think that would. I think Jack Swagger is the guy you're trying to get over, so you might as well just keep him the belt. No problem there. From there, we will go with JBL versus Shawn Michaels. This is the first kind of big match to talk about. And I would have JBL go over here. Yes, I know people are going to scream and holler, why in the hell would you have JBL go over? Let me explain. Because, let's face it, I don't think anyone thinks Undertaker is going to win his Elimination Chamber. And I would have JBL the next night say, you now work for me, but I'm still going to give you one more chance to win your way out. I'm going to give you a chance not just to get yourself out, but I'm going to give you all the money I owe you. I'm going to pay off all your debts. I'm going to do all of that stuff if you do me one thing. And that is, you break the Undertaker's streak. And you go back on how, you know, he feuded with the Undertaker and all of that sort of thing. How he hates the Undertaker. All of this sort of thing. So we get Shawn Michaels versus the Undertaker at WrestleMania. I think that's something we all want, something I want. And I think would draw, and JBL is still involved with WrestleMania without being in an actual match. So there we go there. Then I would do the SmackDown. Yes, the SmackDown Elimination Chamber. I would put it on first, not because I think the Raw SmackDown or the Raw Chamber is better, but because for storyline reasons, and let me explain why. What we have here is you have Edge, Triple H, The Big Show, Undertaker, Vladimir, Kozlov, and Jeff Hardy. Now, Kozlov, I would just have get out of there as soon as possible. I have no idea why he would be in there. If I booked this, he wouldn't even be in here, but I would have him be gone right away. I would have Undertaker cleanly go over Big Show, just for the reason of making so we don't have to have Big Show versus Undertaker at WrestleMania, and I hope to God that's not what we get. So there would be that, and then I would have then Undertaker gets eliminated some way, and then Jeff Hardy, and this all kind of revolves around Jeff Hardy. This is one of the reasons why we put this on the undercard as well, because we're going to have a little screw jobbiness. I would have Matt come in and cost Jeff Hardy the match with Edge's help, and basically Edge begrudgingly takes Matt Hardy's help. They defeat Matt Hardy, or Jeff Hardy. Triple H, I would have still in one of the chambers. I would have this before. I would basically have all of this happen, and Triple H still in his chamber. So they eliminate Jeff, and then it's just Edge versus Triple H, and then I would have Triple H beat Edge. Now, After that, then we do Shane McMahon versus Randy Orton. We do Shane McMahon versus Randy Orton. Randy Orton basically beats the living crap out of Shane McMahon, maybe even with the Legacy's help, being the good little heel that he is, and to the point where Stephanie is forced to come down and beg, that Randy, not kill her brother. Randy snaps, kicks Stephanie in the head. This brings down Triple H. We have our main event for WrestleMania, Triple H versus Randy Orton. That is how I would book it. This is why you put the SmackDown Chamber first, so that it leads up to this, and then Triple H basically says, you've got a title shot, take it with me, blah, 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 blah. Everything kind of flows. Brings us to the Raw Chamber. John Cena, Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, Kofi Kingston, Mike Knox, Kane. Not the most spectacular match in the world. Just let it go how it's going to go. John Cena wins. That is that. So, that leads us with what do we do with WrestleMania. Well, first let's talk about Matt and Jeff, because this is the big thing. And since somehow Matt and Edge do form some sort of weird alliance, and I would go ahead and do the Jeff versus Christian have them kind of align, and have Jeff basically be forced to go to Christian and basically say, I need your help. You're the only one that knows Edge and Matt as well as I do, and that way, I can have someone who I can at least somewhat trust. They have a tag team match. No one has a title, so it can't be a Money in the Bank match, or not a Money in the Bank match, a TLC match. But what it can be is a street fight or a Extreme Rules, whatever you want, whatever kind of gimmick you want to throw on it. I think it would be fine. Type of match where Jeff is trying to get his revenge on Edge and Matt. There we go. With Christian's help. I know a lot of people probably would rather see Jack Swagger versus Christian on this pay-per-view. I would do kind of after this, since he's deemed as maybe the number one contender for the ECW title, that they decide, okay, we're going to do on ECW, because I think this would work well on ECW, we're going to do a tournament on ECW to determine who will take on Jack Swagger, and this is where we really kick up the notch on the total Tommy Dreamer thing. Tommy Dreamer wins. Tommy Dreamer gets Jack Swagger at WrestleMania. Jack Swagger beats Tommy Dreamer. Once again, Tommy comes up short. And then you can do a whole angle between, him finally getting revenge on Morrisson, finally getting revenge on The Miz to some degree, and there we go. Money in the Bank. I just threw some names out there. This isn't the most star-studded lineup I would say you could probably do for the Money in the Bank, but I'm not exactly sure, where you'd want to go. So I just threw some names out there that I would like to see in Money in the Bank. Evan Bourne, Morrisson, Umaga, Kingston, Mysterio, Carlito, Helms, and Kendrick. That's who I would put in Money in the Bank. You'd probably take Helms out and throw in somebody else, but I was just thinking of some good high flyers and guys I thought would do very well in the match. And I would have Evan Bourne. Yes, I would have Evan Bourne win, just because I think it would be seen as a surprise by a lot of people. I think the WWE is high on him, and he could even be the first guy not to win the title who wins the Money in the Bank, which eventually that's going to happen. It might as well be Evan Bourne, the smallest guy, but a guy who is over, and it'd be a good return for him. It would be, a way for him to come back, if he's going to come back at WrestleMania, which they're starting to do promos, so I would imagine he might be back for that, and if that's the case, good stuff. If not, you could put somebody else in there, and then I would just have Morrison or Mysterio win it. So, there we go. Then I would have the U.S. Championship, Shelton Benjamin vs MVP. They've had a nice little feud going. I would have it settled here at WrestleMania with probably, I don't know, take your pick on which guy you'd have over, but I give them time, let them go out there, showcase their stuff. That way the the U.S. Championship is at least on here, and we've had at least two guys from the World Tag Team Champions in the Money in the Bank, so at least your champions are being represented, and I think that is important. Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, I've already talked about. And now for the match that everyone's probably going to go, you are insane, there is no way that would happen, but hear me out. because Triple H and Orton are, of course, the main event. You go through the roster, there's really nobody for John Cena to take on. Because Chris Jericho, and I'll talk about Chris Jericho first before I talk about this, either have him take on Mickey Rourke if that's what you're going to do, or Ric Flair if that's what you're going to do. Either or, that's the way you do it. I think that would work. I think that would be fine. I think people would be fine with that. And again, that leaves John Cena kind of like, who is John Cena going to face? Orton's taking on Triple H. You kind of do the whole thing where Orton says, I'll take on Triple H. And however you're going to handle the whole Triple H, Vince, Stephanie McMahon thing, you can either come out and say that they are married, or you can just come out and say that there's some sort of relationship there that we don't know about. That, maybe you just talk about the fact that, he still feels like he is still part of the family, even though, they're divorced, or whatever, however you want to do it. But that leaves you John Cena by himself. I would put John Cena in there with CM Punk. CM Punk can come out, say he's the Intercontinental Champion, say he is, by technicality, the #1 contender. He came to the WWE. When he first came, he said, he craved competition, he craved competition. And what better competition than WrestleMania, taking on the biggest dog in the WWE, John Cena, getting a shot back at his title that he lost. And basically you would play this dynamic, because neither guy would need to be a heel, because CM Punk would of course get his cheers, and particularly the people that don't like John Cena, and John Cena would get his cheers for just being the most popular guy, and it would work on that level. Very much like Triple H versus John Cena, probably not to that grand of a scale, but this isn't the main event of Mania. You can put this anywhere on the card. It's just a title. It's a title thing. It's a title match at WrestleMania. So it doesn't matter that Punk is not the biggest star in the world, and you can do this to elevate Punk to where they have a good competitive match. This would be a good match, particularly for WrestleMania, and particularly since I don't see a lot of other options out there. So that is how I would do that. I also have Beth Phoenix taking on Gail Kim. Yes, Gail Kim, by this point, I would have show up finally. I would have her win the Divas Championship, and basically have some sort of feud start between the Raw Divas and the SmackDown Divas, to where finally we're going to unify the women's title, and this will be a theme as we go along, where, because eventually, and I would kind of start this with Money in the Bank, where Morrisson and Carlito keep causing each other not to win that match. They keep kind of, Morrison's going to win, then Carlito stops him. Carlito's going to win, and it just escalates their feud a little bit later, to where either at, I guess, what is it, WWE Extreme Rules now, or whatever One Night Stand's going to be, or a Night of Champions, where we have a unification match for the tag team titles. This would be a unification for the women's title. Throw that out there. Give them time. Let them go out there and wrestle. I think they can have a really good match with each other. Unify the titles. Doesn't matter who wins, in my opinion, because I think it'd be a good match, and I think people would enjoy it. Your main event, Triple H versus Orton. Of course, this angle has been building up. This is your huge angle. At some point, maybe you have you overbook it a little bit to where the McMahons all come down and kind of try to stop Orton, try to screw Orton out of the title, whatever, how you want to do it. But this is how I would set up WrestleMania. I think this would be a card that people would be willing to buy. As I said, all of your championship belts are at least represented on this, and I think that is an important thing. And you still, without all of the championships being defended, so you still keep Night of Champions as it's kind of, that's the only night that all the championships are defended. I think that works. I think everything would be fine. Just throwing that out there. Those are just some ideas of mine when it comes to WrestleMania and One Night Stand. No Way Out. And I think that way, I think everybody would kind of get what they want to a degree. Like I said, you can subtract guys from Money in the Bank. I don't think that is that important of a deal. But I think the other matches are somewhat important to how they are set up, because I think that is an event that people would buy. Particularly Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, Triple H vs. Orton. I think people have seen enough of that so they know it would be a good match. I think John Cena versus CM Punk, if it's given time and they are allowed to kind of go out there and do their thing and really escalate things and really make it look like they had a competitive rivalry with each other, where Cena wants to prove that he is the better wrestler, that he is a better wrestler than CM Punk, and CM Punk wants to prove that he was not a fluke. Chris Jericho versus either Rourk or Flair. That's kind of, if it's Mickey Rourke, which if that's the case, I think that'll be a really good draw for a lot of people. Like I said, Beth Phoenix versus Gail Kim. I think just a good women's match. Not that I expect the WWE to actually do something like that. I would expect to probably get some, Playboy Bunny thing. But I just think that leading from No Way Out to WrestleMania, that's just how I would book it. So there you go. Just wanted to come on here and do this for a little bit and do something a little different. So anyways, I'm out. Later.